Hey guys, welcome back to Spoken Truth Revival. For the past couple videos, we've been speaking about spiritual warfare. I made a series about this so that we can get into it and understand it in a deeper level, also keeping it simple. So we already went through, we know what spiritual warfare is. It's basically an attack that comes and attacks our lives, or attacks our spiritual lives. And we also have gotten into where the enemy likes to attack and also recognizing the specific areas that he attacks us from. And that could be from, like I said, distractions, isolation, confusions, doubt, all types of things like that. So we went over the belt of truth, which the belt of truth, we already know now, is standing firm in our faith. And the Roman soldiers at that time, that was the first piece of equipment you could say that they put on. It wasn't anything that was beautified, it wasn't luxurious or anything like that, but it was an essential piece that kept everything intact together. So the belt of truth is something very, very important when it comes to us fighting in a spiritual warfare and understanding it. We also understand that, it says here in the word, that it says to stand firm and also to be prepared when the day comes. When the day comes. Not if it's going to come, not maybe it's going to come, but when the day comes, when the enemy comes to attack us. And for me, it's an everyday thing. I think that is for a lot of us, especially a lot of believers who are trying to get closer to God. It's an attack all day long. But let's get into the next piece of armor. The next piece is the breastplate of righteousness. We find that also in chapter 6, of course, but verse 14, and it follows in that same verse after the belt of truth. So what is the breastplate of righteousness? Why is this so important? Number one, it protects our biggest area, which is our heart, right? For the Romans, when they would put this on, it protected that specific area as well, and also the organs. So it's very important for them to have this breastplate on. But what does that mean for a believer? For a believer, we understand that protecting our heart is very important. The enemy likes to come and attack us there to confuse our identity. The same way when it comes with the whole thing with the belt of truth, with faith. We need to understand that when we put on this breastplate of righteousness, we are putting on knowing that our righteousness comes from God. Our righteousness comes from Jesus, not by acts, not by works, but through his gracious mercy that he has on us. And we earn that. No, we don't earn that. Let me take that back. We receive it through faith. We receive that righteousness through faith. But it doesn't just stop there. It also means on our lives and how we live our lives. That's the second point that we're going to get there, right? So understanding the breastplate of righteousness is very, very strategic when it comes to spiritual warfare. Like I was saying before, the enemy likes to come in and cause that confusion, to cause that doubt, saying, either we are saved or are we actually doing the right things, and to cause that type of brain mind gameplay with us, and to cause us to sway left and sway right. We also went over 1 Peter 5:8, where it says, be careful, be sober-minded, because your enemy, the adversary, goes around like a roaring lion, seeking to who they may devour. And it's true. The enemy is always on the attack. The enemy is always after us. And especially, like I said before, when it comes to us believers, and especially believers that are struggling. Some believers like myself that have struggled with, you can say, falling back. When my son passed away, or not even just that. It was happening before that, but when he passed away, I went backwards. I went backwards a lot. I fell back. And I could feel the enemy attacking me there, doubting God, doubting his mercy, doubting his peace, and things of that nature. So we are called to put on this breastplate of righteousness. Now, we already know that righteousness, we receive it through faith when we believe. When we believe what Christ did on the cross, when we believe God's word, and we believe in him, and we believe that he will carry out what he said he will do for us, we believe that we carry that on us. But our lives, the way we live our lives is very, very important. We are called to be holy. We are called to be pure. Easier said than done. We will fall. We fall. The Bible also says there is not one perfect man. The only one was Jesus. We all fall short out of glory. But in our failures, when we fall back, the Bible also says that when we go and we repent and we ask for our forgiveness, we ask God for forgiveness, He will restore us and bring us back to that righteousness again. But the enemy causes confusion in those areas. But we have to keep reminding ourselves, especially when it comes to our daily lives, we cannot leave doors open or even a crack open for the enemy, for the devil to come in and cause havoc on our lives. I know that through experience, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. But every time we leave a door open, every time we leave a crack open, we give him that foothold where he can stick his little foot in, and stick his little foot in. And after he does that, he comes and he just starts doing what he does best. So we have to be careful with that. We have to be careful with decisions. We have to be careful with how we are choosing to live our lives, making sure that it's coming into accordance to God's holy word and what God has commanded us to do. And it's not a command saying, kind of like a dictatorship and stuff like that, because a lot of people don't believe in the word. A lot of non-Christians think that Christianity or following the Bible is just a bunch of set rules. It's not. God has laid these things out for our protection, to protect us from the one that wants to cause these storms, or wants to cause these trials, and wants to cause the confusion in our identity and knowing who Jesus is and not believing in God's promises. That is the big thing. Because if you ever been in a spiritual battle and you know that you've been in that spiritual battle, and you know the first thing that starts happening is the battle in the minefield, that doubt starts to creep in. And then if you give that doubt a little space, it will continue from there, and we have to be careful. Now, we can go deeper into this, but I don't want to make these videos about that. I want to make them so simple that, kind of like we used to say in the military, make it Barney style or dummy proof. I'm not calling you guys dummies. It's just like this is a military thing, but to make it simple, to make it so simple. The breastplate of righteousness, we put it on. And when we put it on, it's knowing that our righteousness received through faith, we have that to guard us. But at the same time, to add that extra oomph, what we are commanded to do and what we are supposed to do, especially if we're followers of Christ, especially if we're followers of God, to live as morally perfect, if I want to say that in that type of way, as we can. But when we fall, to know that we can go back to the Father and we can ask the Father for forgiveness. And once we ask the Father for forgiveness, He restores us and He brings us back into His righteousness again. It's hard. Spiritual warfare is hard. But as we continue to grow and continue to know more about it and continue to recognize and continue to stay in His holy word, we build ourselves up, we keep that foundation, and we keep growing and growing and growing and growing. But until next time, like I said, these videos are short. We're going to be getting into the next piece of the armor. I'm going to let you guys read Ephesians 6 so you guys can know what is coming up next after the breastplate of righteousness. You guys are going to enjoy it. I'm glad having you guys here. Stay tuned. Spoken Truth Revival. God bless.